Hello there my fellow notebook aficionados and welcome back to the channel. For starters, today I have a question for you. What is a gaming laptop? And is this even a question that simply has one definitive answer? I would say it does, since if you ask me, and I know this sounds superficial, a gaming laptop enables you to play games and actually lets you play those games wherever you want to and however you want to. And with that, I do not mean necessarily that you can sit on a park bench and jump into the latest AAA titles for the whole afternoon, but rather the classic scenarios, if you are switching between being home and going to university, if you simply want to play in another room in your apartment because your SO is hogging the TV, or maybe you're traveling, and if you're like me, going on vacation involves taking care of your Steam pile of shame. Together with NVIDIA, who sponsored today's video, I want to talk more about the whole vacation situation, since as you can see, I am also not in our usual studio setup, since I'm taking a few days off for a relatively spontaneous trip to New York. And since we got it in the name of the channel and I am devoted to the whole laptop lifestyle, this is a small love letter to gaming capable notebooks while being away from home. For this trip I have two laptops with me, and both of them might not be the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about the classic gaming laptop. So they do not only feature the very obvious ingredient to allow for some serious FPS numbers, which would of course be the GPU, but they also deliver a very rounded overall laptop experience. What does this mean? Well, when you're traveling, you're not always playing games. You may watch some YouTube while waiting for your flight to board, compose your out-of-office email for your colleagues, listen to music while getting ready to walk around Central Park in 30-degree weather, and most likely end the day with some Netflix or the like. So in addition to the necessary gaming chops, you would also want some decent battery life, great screens and keyboards, and everything else that makes a laptop a solid mobile computing companion. We also recently conducted a survey on YouTube in which I asked you guys what performance mode you prefer for your laptops. And about half of you opted for a balanced profile, which tells me that pure performance is just one part of the puzzle. And this fits these two beauties here perfectly. The refreshed Asus ROG Zephyrus G14 in its RTX 5070 Ti config is pretty much the obvious choice when looking for a do-it-all travel companion. With an efficient Ryzen CPU, a G-Sync OLED, a sleek and gorgeous looking chassis that does not scream gaming laptop right away, a very comfortable keyboard and best-in-class speakers, this one's got it all. Of course, the star of the show for this one is the RTX 5070 Ti with its 12 gigs of VRAM, which allows you to play anything that comes to mind without a problem. And with a 110 watts power limit, it's a great fit for the sleek chassis, but more about that in a little bit. I actually just wanted to take the G14 for this trip and this video and be done with it. But a few days before leaving for New York, I also got my hands on this one, and it surprised me with what it offers. And since the ROG is of course not exactly a budget option, well, meet the Gigabyte Aero X16. The sleek 16-incher actually feels a bit like the G14's bigger brother, the Zephyrus G16. But with some careful compromises, this one is a lot more affordable. It's also one of the first notebooks we got our hands on with the all-new RTX 5060, and despite the slim chassis, it allows for upgradable RAM and a second SSD. But enough with the formalities. How am I actually using these two while traveling, and what kind of performance can you get from form factors that a few short years ago did not even come with dedicated GPUs? And in the end, it's pretty obvious, but gets so often overlooked when talking about small notebooks. In our case, we rented this beautiful Airbnb in Manhattan, and wherever I choose to sit, I have my full-on gaming setup with me, and since our laptops in question today are incredibly compact, I am ready to jump into my games in just a few short minutes. Be it for controller games while lounging or something more competitive, such as a shooter. It does not really take a lot to be ready to get going, and all you need to have with you, next to your laptop of course, is a headset or some earbuds, a controller and a mouse, and your game everywhere setup is basically ready. And what a gaming experience it is. I'm actually playing quite a few games in parallel right now, and I really like my AAA story titles, which are of course demanding by nature, but especially the G14 can handle pretty much everything you throw at it with ease, especially considering that NVIDIA with their 50 series cards got a few additional goodies to help you boost your FPS numbers without needing a ton of power. But what does this mean in actual numbers? Well, I'm still very much into clear obscure, which is very demanding, but I still got well above 60 FPS on the G14 in Full HD and maximum details with DLSS in its quality setting. On the X16 I dived straight back into God of War Ragnarok, and even the 5060 in the slim 16-incher got me more than 100 FPS in QHD and the highest settings with DLSS and frame generation. When it comes to the latest releases, I also finally found some time to try Stellar Blade after its Steam release, and Dune Awakening also got me hooked. And both titles fully support NVIDIA's DLSS 4 suite of AI helpers for upscaling and frame generation, and they run incredibly well on the G14 and the Aero. For Stellar Blade, I was able to max out everything on the Zephyrus, and even in the native resolution I was able to get close or even match the 120Hz refresh rate with DLSS in quality and 2x frame gen with the laptop in its performance setting, which is actually more of a balanced profile. And even with the Aero, I got close to the 165Hz refresh rate of the QHD panel in the native resolution and maximum details with DLSS and MFG without a problem, on a 60 class GPU running at a mere 70 watts. And if you do not want to move around your charger all the time, even with just a tiny 65 watts USB-C variant, I was still able to get roughly the same FPS in the same settings by just moving up to 4x frame gen on the G14. And this opens up a ton of additional gaming opportunities when being out and about, since you still get quite a decent combination of performance with greatly reduced noise and heat. Last but not least, I easily moved over to the desk for some proper mouse and keyboard action in Dune Awakening. And again, it runs very well on both machines, netting me around 100 to 130 FPS in the highest settings on the Zephyrus with DLSS and MFG 3x in 2560 by 1600, and more than 150 FPS with ultra settings, MFG 3x and DLSS in its balanced settings in 1920 by 1200 on the Gigabyte. I am aware that these are just a few titles, and as always, your experience varies greatly between games and in what each of us prefers when it comes to playable frame rates, since that is also a very subjective thing. And I know this is a sponsored video by NVIDIA no less, but I am personally a big fan of DLSS and frame generation given the right circumstances. With both tools you have a lot of optimization potential to get your favorite games running the way you want them to, and so that they fit your hardware. If 60 FPS is all you care about, then even playing around just with DLSS might be enough to give your machine the boost needed to meet the magical frame rate threshold. With DLSS 4 and NVIDIA's new transformer model, it is also much better than before when it comes to image quality, even when opting for DLSS balance or performance, and it may just keep you from having to reduce the resolution or fiddle around with any in-game quality settings. However, if you are after the highest FPS numbers possible and want to max out the faster refresh rates of modern laptop displays, then you should definitely play around with multi-frame generation, since it enables a gaming experience in supported titles that simply has not been possible before. And you can easily multiply your frame rates if you are upgrading from older 20 or 30 series mobile GPUs. If you are like me and even being on vacation means that you are doing a little bit of work, both laptops have you covered as well, and they make for great content creation workstations, be it for the photos we shot during our New York trip or when editing this particular video. I shot all of it on our Panasonic Lumix S5 IIX, and since Blackwell offers hardware decoding and encoding for our 10-bit 4:2 footage, both cards can easily handle our usual editing workflows, including editing, color grading and using AI tools in Resolve 20, like the transcription functionality we use for our talking head parts. Again, you do not have to compromise anything when doing more general laptop things, and with more than 10 hours for the G14 and roughly 8 hours for the Aero, you have plenty of battery life to use these for all of your additional vacation, computing and entertainment needs. So yeah, for me, for this trip, these are my gaming laptops, and with their respective GPUs and everything NVIDIA offers on the software side of things, you have pretty much all the tools at hand for a great gaming experience no matter where you are in the world. For more detailed information about the G14, please check out our reviews on the channel. And stay tuned for our video about the Aero X16. I am quite happy with what Gigabyte put together with this one for the more budget-oriented gamer or creator. Huge thanks to NVIDIA for sponsoring today's video. And if you want to learn more about their latest Blackwell architecture for laptops, please follow the links below. And if you want to get shopping right away, you can find some links down there as well. And that should be all from my end today. Thanks a ton for watching, folks. Please leave your like and sub on your way out. My name is Alex, you have been fantastic, and I can't wait to see you all in the next one. Take care.